Eliza Bennett was a woman whose grace was as effortless as her success in the fashion industry. Her home, a renovated brownstone in the heart of the city, was a testament to her impeccable taste, modern yet warm, with an undercurrent of sophistication that matched her own. It was in the sanctuary of her bedroom, with its high ceilings and soft ambient lighting, that she indulged in her most intimate ritual, arranging her collection of lingerie. Each piece was a work of art, a blend of silk, lace, and satin in hues that ranged from the palest blush to the deepest noir. Eliza's fingers drifted over the fabrics, her touch as tender as if she were caressing the skin of a lover. It was a private, almost sacred moment, a time to appreciate the beauty that adorned her body as much as it adorned her soul. But tonight, something was amiss. Her favorite piece, a silk chamisole with delicate chantilly lace edges, was nowhere to be found. Eliza's brow furrowed, a small crease of worry marring her smooth forehead. She told herself it was simply misplaced, perhaps lost in the laundry or tucked away in a forgotten corner of her closet. But as she continued her inventory, more gaps appeared in her meticulously curated collection. With a sense of unease prickling at the back of her neck, Eliza began to search in earnest. Drawers were opened and closed with increasing urgency, the rustle of fabric a whispering chorus to her growing concern. She checked every possible hiding place within her room, the soft glow of her bedside lamp casting long shadows that seemed to mock her efforts. The realization that her lingerie was not merely misplaced, but deliberately taken struck her like a physical blow. The air in her room, once filled with the scent of her favorite jasmine perfume, now felt stifling, the silence oppressive. Eliza's mind raced. Who would do such a thing? Who would invade her privacy in so intimate a manner? The answer came to her in a flash of intuition, a mother's insight that cut through the fog of denial. There was only one other person in her home who had unfettered access to her private quarters. Her son, Oliver. Oliver, with his quiet demeanor and studious habits, had always been close to his mother. They shared everything, or so Eliza had thought. The bond between them was strong, a duo against the world, ever since Oliver's father had left them when he was just a boy. The idea that he could betray her trust in such a personal way was inconceivable. And yet, the evidence of her missing lingerie was undeniable. With a heavy heart, Eliza made her way to Oliver's room. The door, always open, now seemed like a barrier she was reluctant to cross. She knocked softly, the sound echoing in the quiet hallway. There was no answer, and after a moment's hesitation, she turned the handle and stepped inside. The room was a typical young man's space, with posters of rock bands and stacks of textbooks. But the neatness, the almost obsessive orderliness, that was unlike Oliver. It was as if he was trying to maintain an appearance of normalcy, a facade, to cover up his secret transgressions. Eliza approached the bed, her hands trembling slightly as she reached underneath, her fingers brushed against something soft and silken, the unmistakable feel of her missing lingerie. With a sigh that was half sob, she pulled out the chamisole along with other stolen pieces, the fabric slipping through her fingers like sands of time, marking the end of innocence. The weight of disappointment settled heavily on her chest, a cold ache that spread through her body. Eliza sat there for a long time, surrounded by the evidence of her son's betrayal. The city lights outside, casting a surreal glow on the scene of her discovery. In the stillness of the night, Eliza knew that life as they knew it would never be the same again. The delicate threads of their relationship had been irrevocably altered, and as she clutched the stolen lingerie to her heart, she wondered how they would ever find their way back to each other. The confrontation would come, but for now, Eliza allowed herself to mourn the loss of the simplicity and trust that had once defined her relationship with her son. The journey to understanding and healing would be long and fraught with complex emotions, but it was a path they would have to walk together. The night had been long and sleepless for Eliza, her mind a tumult of emotions as she grappled with the discovery of Oliver's secret, the lingerie, now a symbol of the chasm that had opened between them, lay in a silent heap on her bed, a tangible reminder of her son's clandestine desires. As dawn's first light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the collection, Eliza found herself lost in thought. The initial shock and hurt had given way to a deep sense of concern. Oliver was her son, her flesh and blood, and she knew she couldn't simply ignore the vulnerability he had inadvertently revealed. Eliza realized that behind the act of theft lay a cry for understanding, a silent plea that she, as a mother, could not ignore. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with complexity, but her love for Oliver was unwavering. It was this love that compelled her to consider a path that was unconventional, to say the least. With a resolve that was both frightening and liberating, Eliza made her way to Oliver's room. The door was slightly ajar, and she could see him sitting on the edge of his bed, his shoulders hunched in resignation. She knocked gently, and he looked up, his eyes red-rimmed from a night spent in guilt-ridden wakefulness. "Oliver," Eliza began, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "I found my lingerie." There was no point in denial. The evidence was irrefutable. Oliver's face was a mask of shame, but beneath that lay a flicker of relief. The secret he had carried was now out in the open, and there was a strange sense of catharsis in its exposure. Eliza sat down beside him, the distance between them feeling both vast and insignificant. "I want to understand," she said softly, "why you did it." The words hung in the air, an olive branch extended in the hope of bridging the gap that had formed between them. Oliver's confession came slowly at first, haltingly as he struggled to articulate feelings that were as confusing to him as they were to his mother. He spoke of loneliness, of longing for connection in a world that often felt cold and indifferent. He described the softness of the fabrics as a comfort, a way to feel close to the mother he idolized. It was a naive and misguided attempt to fill an emotional void, but it was sincere. Eliza listened, her heart aching for the young man before her. She saw the fragility behind his stoic facade, the vulnerability that belied his 20 years. In that moment, Eliza made a decision that defied societal norms, but adhered to the unspoken bond between mother and child. "Ol, I can't condone stealing, but I can offer you a compromise," she said, her hand reaching out to cover his. "You can have access to my lingerie, but there are rules. You must never take anything without asking, and we will address this need of yours together." The shock in Oliver's eyes was quickly replaced by a dawning gratitude. The offer was more than he had dared to hope for, and the relief that washed over him was palpable. Eliza's terms were strict but fair, a lifeline thrown to him in the midst of a stormy sea. They agreed that Oliver would seek professional help to understand and manage his urges. In the meantime, Eliza would allow him to choose pieces from her collection with the understanding that this was a gesture of love and trust, not an endorsement of inappropriate behavior. As they came to this unconventional agreement, the tension in the room dissipated, replaced by a newfound understanding. Eliza's decision was a testament to her strength as a mother, and her unwavering commitment to her son's well-being. In the days that followed, their relationship entered a new phase, one of open communication and mutual respect. The boundaries were clear, and while the path ahead was uncertain, they were determined to navigate it together with compassion and empathy guiding their way. The lingerie, once a source of secrecy and shame, now stood as a beacon of honesty and acceptance. It was a delicate balance, to be sure, but in the Bennett household, love had proven itself to be the most powerful force of all. In the wake of their unspoken pact, a subtle shift took place within the walls of the Bennett household. Eliza, ever the attentive mother, found herself treading a fine line between nurturing and tantalizing, the boundaries of their relationship now blurred by the recent revelations. She was acutely aware of Oliver's lingering glances, the way his gaze would follow her around the room, laced with a mixture of longing and confusion. Eliza knew that her actions held the power to either soothe his turmoil or stoke the flames of his obsession. It was a delicate dance, one that required finesse and an understanding of the delicate balance they were both navigating. With a newfound sense of purpose, Eliza began to test the waters of their agreement. She moved through the house with a heightened awareness of her body, the way her silk robes clung to her curves, or how the morning light played across her skin. It was a conscious choice to embrace her sensuality, to reclaim the power of her femininity that had been overshadowed by maternal duty. One morning, as Oliver sat at the kitchen table, engrossed in his studies, Eliza entered the room, wearing a thin, clingy sweater that left little to the imagination. She moved with deliberate grace, her steps measured as she reached for a mug in the cupboard. The action caused her to bend over slightly, the hem of her sweater riding up to reveal the smooth expanse of her lower back. Oliver's breath caught in his throat, his eyes inadvertently drawn to the